again, a lot to go. I mean, the kit was more consumer friendly. I just wanted people to start realizing the value, the importance of when, if you're going to grow your own, vegetables, your own cherry tomatoes. I always think about my grandma whenever I think of that. Like, I want it to be grown with the best soil. I was fortunate enough to grow up in the Catskills in the upstate New York. We had amazing soil in our, in our area. I do some research in Jamaica and some, agricultural projects down there. The soil is amazing, and it just you start to appreciate that basis. Just like they say that, the Emerald Triangle up in California. It's, those are that we see what comes from that, the best of the best, and whatever you're growing, it's really important to have that as the foundation. And I'm super excited. Like I said, our first research paper has been completed. It's now in the process of being submitted to academic journals. And that's a whole new paradigm when how we're going to look at cannabis and hemp, and I'm super excited to move that project forward. And again, opening to collaboration with those groups and people that are interested in joining on and supporting this movement. Because listen, I've been doing this for a long time for others. I am zeroed in on this new opportunity because it's such a cool way of it'll break down so much of this negative stigmatism around this plant and this medicine, and how we can use herbal medicine and what we get from nature and how it's so good for us. Like, I hear all this great talk about the endocannabinoid system and this, and I'm like, I remember not too long ago, no one even knew what that was when I said it, and so it wasn't that long ago. So I'm just jazzed about what we can do, and we have a lot more of these events, and we share a lot more of this information, and I love, like I said, I'm always out there to share new insight, and I hope people, always, again, come in. We have you guys back on the show soon as well. Concierge for Better Living. It's on iHeart. It's on Spreaker. It's on Cannabis Radio. I've had some great guests lately. I had my buddy Stuart Tomp from Plus CBD Oil on the other day, and we go back 20 years or 18 years, different areas, fish oil to oregano oil. So it's not just about selling cannabis. It's about really the best products on the market that you can get to help people feel better. And that's what I think people know me for. Is I don't, it's just a matter of trying to, provide a better today than yesterday and a better tomorrow than today. That's kind of my slogan. So.
We appreciate you as our media partner at CANNA World Expo. You have got such talent, my friend. I sincerely appreciate the camaraderie in the industry since the very beginning. And also, if you can hang on for this next interview, I think you're going to love it.
I sure will.
Is Tasha available to do the introduction? There she is.
Yeah, I'm back.
Hey,
there she is.
We'll silence ourselves so that we're not, taking up all the space and everything and the bandwidth. And
yeah. So that said, I'm going to log off, and Tasha, I'm going to let you take this one away.
Okay.
Thank you, Doc Rob.
Yeah, thanks, Doc Rob. By the way, Doc Rob, every time I go shopping for salad stuff, I always am like, Doc Rob says I need my mushrooms.
Mushrooms are key. I had a wonderful omelet this morning with some spinach and some mushrooms and lots of other goodies, but awesome. Happy to hear things are well.
Yeah, thanks. So up next we have, with Ardent, we have Shanel Lindsay. So if you want to come on, hi, there you are. How are you? She's the founder and CEO of the Boston-based company Ardent. Before launching Ardent in 2015, she was a medical marijuana patient suffering from chronic pain and inflammation caused by an ovarian cyst she developed after having her son. Determined and motivated to find a solution for women and patients like herself, Shanel worked with scientists at MCR Labs on pioneering research into decarboxylation. Sorry if I murdered that. And then invented the Nova decarboxylator and infuser. There. Say it a couple of times fast, and then you got it. Additionally, so there's more. Wait, there's more. She's an attorney, a cannabis activist, a prominent voice for equity in the industry. Highlights include being the author of the Massachusetts Marijuana. Hold on just a second. It went full screen on me. Oh, there we go. Massachusetts Marijuana Legalization Initiative, and was appointed by the treasurer twice to the Massachusetts Cannabis Advisory Board. She is the co-founder of Equitable Opportunities Now. So thank you so much for joining us. This is my second CANNA World Expo, so I'm super excited to be even more of a part of it than I was last time, and to continue to meet amazing people such as yourself.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate you guys for having me here today. The new virtual world.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's a little bit hard to hear you, just so you know.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can get it better. How's that?
Okay.
Is that still tough or is it good?
Yeah, sounds good.
That's good. That's good. Thank you so much. We want to make sure that we get every word that you say.
Awesome. And I shared my screen. So can you guys see that as well?
You are up. Yep.
Awesome.
You have permission to share.
Okay, great. And if you guys can see it, I can see the screen on my side. So I will just kind of jump in. And thanks so much for having me, Tasha. Like you mentioned, you know, my whole life, it seems, for the past 10 years has been cannabis. But for me, it really started when I was a young mother. I had my son when I was 19, and he's actually 19 right now. So it's come full circle there. But I started to use cannabis to treat an ovarian cyst that I had. And for me, and probably a lot of other people, is when they move from just using cannabis in a kind of the traditional way of smoking it, but then have a need where they need to actually start to make other cannabis products. Like for me, it was suppositories that were very helpful, and topicals and edibles. And if you're looking into making these products, it can be very scary. And one of the first concepts people come across that is very nerve-wracking is this idea of decarboxylation, right? And decarboxylation really simply just means activating your plant. A lot of people don't realize that the THC and the CBD in the plant actually have an acid layer on them, and that prevents it from connecting with your endocannabinoid receptors as well as it should. And so you need to take off this this molecule that really seems like a simple process, but really can be difficult because it's a very sensitive process. And anybody who's tried and wasted an entire ounce knows that it can be a very expensive process as well. And so for me, on my journey, I was using the oven and the toaster oven and lots of other kind of traditional materials. And for 10 years, I was using these different processes and not really happy with the results I was getting. Now, the cannabis was working fantastic, but when it came down to actually dosing it or being able to use it without using a lot of butter or oil, that was something that kind of remained very elusive. And so when medical marijuana came to Massachusetts, it was a very exciting time for many different reasons, right? Because people weren't getting arrested like I was under decriminalization for having their own plants and growing their own plants. But at the same time, there was a huge hurdle for people, right? Because in Massachusetts, dispensaries didn't open up for 4 years. So for the first 4 years, people were just trying to make things on their own, which, as I mentioned, for me, I had been doing it for 10 years already, but for folks that were just coming on board, we were actually seeing them come into the lab with their medicine and it not having any THC in it at all because they were burning it off during the process. And these were people that were trying to, treat their family members with serious health needs. And for me personally, it was really depressing and sad to see people think that cannabis wasn't working for them when it actually wasn't the cannabis, it was their process of activating and making the product. And so I went and I started doing testing with MCR labs here in Mass and really honing in on that time and temperature profile for decarboxylation. And once we really figured that out, that was great, but how does that actually help people? So I went and I developed and invented a device that actually would be able to replicate those parameters that we saw in the laboratory at home. And like I mentioned, anybody who's using the crock pot or using the oven knows that there are downfalls to those methods. And one of them is the way that cannabis is being heated, right? When you think about an oven or a toaster oven, you're thinking about the heating elements being at the top or the bottom, and there really not being kind of control over what's happening there. And you really having to watch really closely or kind of guess. And really at the end of the day, with cannabis being so amazing, what people don't realize is there's actually a ton ton of THC and CBD in every gram, right? If you're thinking about your average gram of cannabis, 20% THC, that's 200 milligrams in every single gram. And I'd say your average person is not getting anywhere near that with kind of the normal methods. And so I was so happy and proud, and it was really tough, but a fun journey to create Nova. And you see here, really the difference in the technology is that there is a thermal blanket that wraps around the entire cavity of the device. And then there's also two sensors, one that's on the heater and monitoring and making sure that temperature never goes above where it should go. And one in the middle, right, where all the cannabis is, where there is no heat, that's actually creating this like perfect cycle of heat, very gentle, but very precise in order to activate your THC or CBD. I actually have some CBD that I activated here. So you can see after decarb, it's darker than when it came in. And that's the thing, like Doc Rob was talking about, like, you can't see these things, right? Like you can't see when decarboxylation has happened, right? It really is a scientific process, and you need to have that confidence in doing it right. And that really was the purpose of ARDENT. ARDENT means passionate, obviously. And, we're definitely passionate about bridging that gap for people and making it very simple for people who've never even used cannabis before to come in and know that they can go and make and activate, any product that they want. And here are some of our accessories here. I was actually just decarbing and infusing earlier, like you mentioned, Tasha. It's a decarboxylation is really the fundamentally most hard process, right? Afterwards, people can infuse into oils and other things. I actually just made some CBD oil here a minute ago. So we make those processes easier too by making accessories, like a little French press that you can put in there and pour out, so that again, it becomes, excuse me, very much like the type of activities that people are used to doing in the kitchen, but they're actually able to do it in a really simple and precise way. And this year we actually came out with the FX, which we call the Easy Bake Ardent, because not only, I'll show you the buttons here, not only can you decarb both THC and CBD, because there are different time and temperature parameters for activating both of those in the most precise way, CBG as well, but also you can infuse in here and even actually bake little snacks inside. So it's really this idea that people can have people can make edibles even if they're sitting at their desk, right? I'm in my kitchen now, but you don't have to be. You could be sitting at your desk at work or in a hotel room and be able to do this complete process of activating your material. If you want to infusing it, one thing people should know is after your material is activated, you can just eat it like this, right? You can take a little bit and sprinkle it in food. You don't have to infuse. And I think that's something that people are pretty confused about. This idea of decarboxylation and infusion definitely get conflated. And oils and medium chain triglycerides and lipase, and there's other enzymes and excipients that can help cannabis absorb, but you don't have to infuse into it. You actually could just take your oil. A lot of our customers just take a little bit, put it right into chocolate or food, or again, a high fat food is going to help the cannabis, the THC and CBD absorb, but you don't need to take that extra step of infusing. And in fact, if you use the cannabis directly, that is the best way to get the most out of it, because you're not having any kind of loss there in infusion. So for Ardent, our main focus is science, right? Everything that we do is backed up with science to show what is the efficacy of, what we're doing here. And so with our device, you're getting over 97% decarboxylation of CBD or THC. And then our infusion capability is, depending on what the oil carrier is, 80 to 90% infusion rates. And again, we do a lot of testing around like milk and cream and all of these other different things, or even more importantly, things like vegetable glycerin, which are not good infusers, right? So there's a lot of confusion out there with people trying to try different things, and we try to be that resource of actual science, data, and then technology to help make it really simple for people to get from A to Z. And I don't want to dominate, Tasha. Please feel free if you have any thoughts or concerns or questions. This is very nice of you guys to invite me and kind of give me some guidance on what to maybe talk about. And so these are one of the biggest questions that we got after decarboxylation. So we launched in 2016. I was developing the product from 2012 to 2016, and then brought it to market in 2016. and people love the decarb function, but you can imagine decarboxylation at that point was a pretty nuanced topic that a lot of, only people that were actually like using cannabis really understood. So even once we got, once we kind of convinced the first, the cannabis community that this was right? Because that was something important that we needed to do. Imagine me coming along saying like, oh, hey guys, you've been doing it wrong for 20 years, that was something that we really had to lead with the science there. But after that, people were asking like, okay, well, now I've decarbed CBD, like what do I do with it afterwards, right? And so we started to make these kits that help them to make any product that they could think of. And so we have these kind of little cute oil kits and all of essentially the products that people need. So we kind of say it's everything but the bud, right? We provide everything because most people do actually have access to some product in cannabis. And you mentioned advocacy and activism. One thing that we fought hard for here in Massachusetts and that we continue to fight for is home grow access, right? I really feel that a legalization scheme is not a real freeing of the plant unless you have the ability to home grow. And so for people, the idea is that in Massachusetts, not only can you grow at home, but you can also gift up to an ounce to any adult. And so there is this beauty that exists around cannabis now that people can actually have it, they can grow it, they can do this very affordably. And for folks, especially those that are, high dosers, think about in Massachusetts, there's a 5 milligram cap on edibles as far as the serving size. And so, and 100 milligrams per, product. And so if you need to take 500 or 1,000 milligrams a day, you're kind of immediately priced out of the marketplace. And so the idea is that we want people to understand that actually sometimes in cannabis products, the THC or CBD is the least expensive thing in that product, and that people could be accessing this easier and better at home. So that was my little presentation there about, what we've been up to over the last couple of years at Ardent. And yeah, I really thank you guys for having me and would love to talk more if any of that kind of piqued your interest.
Wow, all I can say is I'm just like in shock and awe. That was just amazing. And then my second thought was, how do I get one? How do I, what is the website? How do we get one of those?
Yeah, so Ardent Cannabis, it's ARDENT, and we actually put up a special code for anybody who's watching that's $50 off the decarboxylator, and it's Get More, so GET more. And the whole idea is that you can actually get more out of your cannabis material, whether you're getting it from a dispensary or you're growing it at home. There are really, really easy ways to, if you think about in 1 ounce of 20% THC, that's over 5,000 milligrams of THC in an ounce, right? And so people, I think, need to kind of change the way that they're thinking of what it means to make cannabis products at home, because there is no minimum in here. Even with this big machine, you could just decarb 1 gram or less at a time. And again, that's key for concentrate. All of these things need to be decarboxylated. It's only distillate that is kind of a fully, very, very highly processed product that doesn't. But your keef, your concentrate, your hash, all of these things need to be activated in order for you to make, different cannabis products. And what we love is that when we see people start to say, okay, I'm going to activate a gram and make my product, and they realize, oh, wow, I was able to make a lot with that. Let me try something else. Let me try making a topical, or let me try making a suppository. And people actually can move beyond what they've just been using cannabis for and go to, like what I said, the utility of cannabis, like being able to use it for facial toners and other kind of like over-the-counter things that people might not even consider, especially if their entire budget is going, for their medical needs.
Yeah, just very wow. And you said some really inspiring things. Just your story from start to finish, very inspiring. How you got to where you are now, very inspiring. So what are some words of inspiration you would give to people given today's business climate? Because as you know, with COVID, there were a lot of choice pivots and a lot of forced pivots, and a lot of innovation has come during this time. And so you obviously have created something that is highly innovative. What would you say to those people that are kind of coming after you? And in regards to your own journey, what inspiration or words of wisdom would you give to those people?
Yeah, absolutely. And COVID definitely threw everybody, threw everybody in the loop. I think that, we were launching our device, right, the new product, right as COVID was hitting. And so for us, we're primarily an e-commerce company. We definitely had to kind of double down on everything that was, everything digital, right? Because that was where the world was going there. But I still see so much opportunity, especially in the cannabis world. I mean, nobody can deny what happened during COVID in cannabis, which is that we were designated essential, right? And that made that kind of elevated, especially in Massachusetts. All of a sudden, there was one among other industries, but it was protected, right? And even though things were closed, people definitely still had the opportunity to see the value in the industry. And I think that we saw that with this election, right? Look at all the new states that have opened up to cannabis. So I definitely encourage people in those, new states. There is a huge opportunity, especially at the beginning of a legalization scheme, to get in there and to fight and to advocate for small businesses, to fight and advocate for local business. And I think that that's a huge opportunity that people in the newly legalized states really need to take a handle on, because one thing that we know is that as amazing as cannabis is, now that it's become an industry, it really is corporate interests that have kind of taken the lead on what cannabis means, or tried to. And I think that there's a big opportunity for people to actually reach that end consumer. I think that just like this, cannabis education and marketing, not only teaching people, but connecting cannabis businesses with that end consumer is a huge opportunity. Mostly, in Massachusetts and other regulated states, it's almost impossible for cannabis businesses to advertise, right? And so I always see that as a huge opportunity to kind of bridge that gap, for people. And for those just looking to get involved, you need to network. I would say that that's the biggest piece of the cannabis industry, is getting to know the folks that are in the industry and collaborating and working with them. Because one thing you'll notice is, even if you're not a regulated company, there are serious restrictions on what you can do, how you can advertise. And if you want to be successful in this industry, you really need to understand and know those nuances to be able to avoid them and be able to build, a good business. And anybody in the cannabis industry who tells you it's not hard is definitely lying, because it's a very, very hard industry, right? We don't even touch the plant, right? And I've had, bank accounts shut down, vendors, leave me. And so there's a lot of really, it's a risky business, but the reward is so much, not just in building a good business, but actually the impact that you can have on people's understanding and their health. And so definitely encourage people to look into it. And my biggest advice is just use the skill set you already have, right? The skill set that you've already cultivated and the passion that you have, that's what needs to drive you in the cannabis industry. Sometimes we see people who are like, oh, I'm gonna be, a grower or something. It's something that they have like no expertise or even passion in, because they think that that's what they need to do in the industry to be successful. But I would challenge people to look at what is the skill set and what is the passion that you have. And I guarantee some cannabis business needs that support. And you should be looking at what you already do. And that's an easy way to get into the industry. Little risk to you, but also big reward when you can partner with people, maybe offer your services for a little bit less than you would usually, but to get that experience. And kind of what I've realized is, once people, and I've seen this in mass, once people get into the industry, if they're passionate about what they do, they rise very quickly into kind of the situation that they want to be in. And so, again, I'm talking from a marketplace that's still developing. I know things can be a little bit different, in some of the regulated states on the West Coast, but honestly, when you think about cannabis in the US, it's just in its infant stage in almost every place. And there's definitely a place for especially women, especially people of color in this industry, because we are definitely very underrepresented and need everyone's support.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, again, you hit on some, really fantastic points. I mean, I was a 10-year long English teacher. And so whenever COVID happened, I found this industry found me, just like teaching found me, the cannabis industry found me. And so, I've taken the skills that I have developed being a teacher, and I've brought them over into this arena. And so, bringing cannabis education. So, how to, like you were talking about training, education, why is that important? Well, I'm one of those people that, I'm not necessarily a grower or a manufacturer, but I'm an educator on plant medicine and why plant medicine is important and why this plant is incredibly important. In addition to all the other plants that we have out there. And I can say that I live in one of the newly legalized states. So I live in Arizona. So I'm not from Arizona, but I currently live in Arizona. So congrats to us. And so
exciting.
Yeah. So yeah. But here though, it was the medical was, it really was underground legal operations. So I know many people, you know, I'm sure that many people have heard the same stories. You go into the pot doc and you just say, I have a chronic illness, and then they just write you the card, and then there you go. And so, you know, even more so, it's important that we bring education, because if we're going to turn the tide or shift the attitude so that there's greater acceptance, that education is even more important, especially now where I was actually shocked that I looked at the election results and every single county in Arizona supported legalization.
Wow.
But with that comes a responsibility, right? So, you know, again, my role in this is the education piece. And so just in the last few minutes that we have left, Shanel, I have two questions for you. So again, as me being in a new legal state, what is your favorite product? And then since the holidays are coming up for many people, what product would you recommend? Those things may be two different things, or they may be the same.
Okay, so my favorite product. Well, I think that obviously I'm super partial to, you know, the products that I live with every single day, but I definitely think that there is huge value in consumption devices that help people regulate their consumption better. So I am a huge fan of the Puffco Peak. I think that it was an incredibly innovative device that really made dabbing much safer for people. So I think that, you know, for me, when I think about what are the devices and what are the products that I think kind of change the game, in my mind, it comes down to ease, the ability to, sorry, siren in the background, the ability to make products easier and the ability to maintain safety. And so when I think of the Peak and kind of taking that, the dab rig and the torch and putting that into something that is quite safe, that would be you know, one of my top picks there. And then when it comes for Christmas, I love the apothecary case. Whitney Beatty is one of my friends, and she's also a fantastic advocate as well. And it really is a safe way to keep your product, but also an upscale and very beautiful way to manage and handle and keep your cannabis fresh and safe and locked away. So those would be my two suggestions, especially good for the holiday season as well.
And then I think Doc Rob, you wanted to make a comment or to say something?
Oh yeah, no, I love listening to this. Chanel, it's great to hear your story and to learn about your product. I think that as both of you guys, Tasha and Chanel, you're talking education is key. It's what I've always done. Even educating as a medical director in Arizona medical dispensaries. So there are patients that go in there that need medicine. There are some that are going in there because they are under the recreational guise, but it's still providing them some benefits, whether they want to look at it as medicine or otherwise. But I love that, you know, Massachusetts is a whole other story, you know, with the grow your own rights. And that's why I wanted to mention, that's one of the reasons why I made the jungle floor too, was because I want more people growing their own cannabis in Arizona and Florida, and everyone should be able to grow this as a plant, like kale, like spinach, like tomatoes in their house or in their yard. These are things that I'm a strong advocate for, and I think it's really important. And I love that that's the case. I do want to say, because it's just part of my role as Chanel, is like one of the things that I do have a comment on, and I think that having a decarboxylator that's convenient, that's as efficient as yours sounds amazing. I look forward to trying it. I love trying out products. The one thing I would say is that the term activation is not necessarily, throughout my years, we recognize that the evolving language is that the acids are the neutral right? They're still neutral. And then you have the decarboxylated forms of THC, because I know a lot of doctors, and myself included, are doing research on THCA and CBDA, a lot of it for its anti-inflammatory properties. And so one of the things I would say is that there's activity, there's benefit in these non-decarboxylated, these neutral or raw phytocannabinoids as well. So I just want to be careful that we don't want people to dismiss at this early stage of the young cannabis industry the value of the way nature gave us these phytocannabinoids, these terpenes, these flavonoids, these micronutrients that come in this plant. Because for me, the research I'm doing and the passion I have, like I said, I just spoke at the Whole Plant Expo. My topic is cannabis is food. So yes, I am all about everyone growing their own, but there's different ways all of us can utilize the plant in different ways for their own benefits. So I love the decarboxylated. I love optimizing the decarboxylated compounds and the phytocannabinoids. I have to kind of say that there is value in the way nature provides the plant as well in its raw form, and there's a lot of healing properties found in that as well. So I just don't want people dismissing that, because I think the more we can look at this plant like that, the more it'll become legalized and more accessible and less stigmatized and less controlled. So I love using it in all forms and fashions, believe me, but I just want to share that insight. But awesome stuff. I really do want to try that, and welcome you on, Shanel, on my show anytime as a guest to talk more about your machine and your journey. I would love that.
Absolutely. And I think you make a great point there. So we kind of, activation, I think, is a legitimate term, because it's kind of that, once you've gotten to that, activated form, although absolutely, we think that there's huge value in the raw plant. And in fact, we talk a lot about ratios and being actually able to mix THCA with THC. I think the challenge with people, it's easy to get THCA, right? It's right there in the way the plant made it. The challenge that we saw is that when people were trying to get to that THC, they were having all of that issue and trouble, because it is a difficult process. But 100%, we have a lot of folks that are blending both of those, and honestly being able to blend different strains and be able to test and find what's really able to work with them, especially with the introduction of things like CBG and CBC, and people really digging into those once minor, but now kind of taking the stage cannabinoids.
Love it. The whole plant is key. The whole plant.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And check us out. Like we mentioned at Ardent Cannabis, there's not just the products, but a lot of education, a lot of testing around the questions that often people have. Can I infuse once and then add fresh decarb material and infuse again, or raw material, and what happens when I do different things? And I think it's, a lot of people enjoy kind of all of that educational information. So please go check us out.
Sweet.
Thank you so much for joining us, Shanel. We appreciate it, especially because you're on the East Coast, and Doc Rob as well. I know it's getting late for you guys.
Appreciate you. So that means it's dark out now.
I know.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.